young people, come closer. I think that in every part of the world, there are challenges everywhere. And the problems that affect Nigeria are very unique, but you have a chance to be creative about it. It's what makes you Nigerian. And there are a lot of examples that I can mention. Talk about our music, talk about politics, talk about food, talk about fashion. Everywhere you go to, there is somebody that looks exactly like you. And crime should not be what you should venture into.
Hello, welcome. It's the LHC Pod, and this is another wonderful, amazing episode. My name is Emmanuel, and it's been a while that I've been manning this set alone. My colleague is currently unavailable, but I do hope that she would be back as soon as possible. My name is Emmanuel, and this is how we roll. Today, we are having a wonderful, wonderful, amazing guest in our midst today. You want to know? Don't go nowhere. All right, welcome back. You know how we're doing it here. We bring you scintillating, entertaining, educative conversations. And it is the reason why the podcast is tagged as Inspiring Elevated Living. Who do we have in the house today? No other person. We brought in a young at heart mind to come and tell us what he feels about the whole older generation and why they are being tagged the way they are being tagged. It's no other person than Ayolua Folakunmi Ogunsola. He is his sustainability advocate, and we've been having a very nice conversation behind the scene. How do I welcome him? I would say chop knuckle. That is a very good way to bring you on. How's it been?
Fine, thank you very much.
Wonderful. GenZ. GenZ. You know, this song from, I think, Seun Kuti and Vector, the Viper. GenZ. You know the vibe. And so today we're discussing the misconception of Generation Z, which is the younger generation. Why are you guys so misunderstood? Let's even start from there. We need to break all of that, that stereotype about Gen Zs today. Why? What is happening? Tell me.
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me on the pod. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right.
I think that our generation is very unique. For the first time ever, I'm going to talk from the Nigerian perspective, right? Mm-hmm. I was born in the year 2000, right? And this was when telephones came to Nigeria. And, you know, I grew up knowing that my dad had the telephone, sneak into the room, play games on the phone, sneak game on the phone.
Okay.
And then by the time I was like, let's say 10, 11, I already had an Android phone. And so this access to information, having a digital device that can communicate with people all around the world, it's just like something that no other generation has had access to. So you should cut us some slack if we had this.
So would you say the other generation are just beefing? Yeah, beef.
I wouldn't say beefing. I think that they don't understand what it means to be this exposed at such an age.
Seriously?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes, I think.
What is it that they don't understand? I
think that access to information has never been this accessible, if that's the way to write it. I think that no other generation has had access to information like we have had it.
But we're also together, and whatever information you're searching, I'm also searching. So what makes you peculiar? What makes you entirely different from the older generation? Because again, come on. You have access to internet.
Yeah.
I do. I'm a millennial, right?
Yeah.
I have access to the internet. I surf the internet as much as you do. I'm engaged. I'm involved in AI-related activities. So the same thing. I use tech to enable or enhance my work performance. You do. So what makes you think every Gen Z says, oh, we have access to information, the other generations don't. But we're living in the same world, right?
I think what makes it unique particularly is the fact that we grew up in it.
I grew up in it too.
No, I feel like, for example, right?
Yeah.
My early childhood was defined by what I knew on the internet. And obviously my immediate family, but to a very large extent, most young people, what they understood as life in itself is having a device on you. No generation at any, especially early childhood, which forms how a child's, brain, how they think, their reality. This is essentially what it means to be Gen Z, having access to a global, essentially global family through your device. So I don't think any other generation had it that early, and it does affect how we behave, our culture, what we think as right and wrong, because now we have people from different parts of the world connecting with each other. Oh, it's weird to do this in your culture. Oh, it's weird to do this in your culture.
And then you learn so much.
Yeah.
But the older generation says the Gen Zs are lazy. Right? And not just that, they're saying that you guys have entitlement mentality. Inclusive. What do you have to tell me about that?
So no shades, but I particularly...
No, please, shade as much as you want. Shade.
I particularly think that...
And maybe if they call you lazy, you should also say they are very archaic.
Well, that's a way to put it. But I think that I might find it very delusional for a generation for someone to say that a particular generation is lazy. Like, come on, like a whole generation is lazy. This is how it has always been targeting young people, right? Generation X, they were called slackers. Millennials were called Mimi generation. Different generations were called different things because of different cultures. Things are changing at different times. So I think that it's to look at the whole generation and tell them that, oh, this generation is lazy. Come on, it's a bit delusional. It makes sense that definitely at some point in time, because of ease, because of the fact that technology has made life easier, it may seem as though, for example, in Nigeria, some particular generations, they experience war, the civil war, right? And so at that particular point in time, you understand that life was harder, right? Now we have it easier, right? And this is how it is in almost every part of the world, right? There was a time that things were much more difficult, and you saying that they are lazy because they didn't have to go through the struggles that you went through can be tough.
Yeah, but do you think that you have it easy, but does that translate in terms of output, performance?
I think it does. I think it does.
How?
I think that
even try and debunk that allegation.
I think that if you check almost the fields that exist in Nigeria that are doing very well, which obviously entertainment, right? That is not held in quotes by older generation, the boomers. The entertainment is one sector that young people have the opportunity to express themselves creatively without any boundaries. I think that's music, comedy. If you go through this list, you'd see Gen Z's excelling there. They're doing amazing things. Look at Rema, doing amazing shows, doing amazing things. Even the millennials that were that are even in the music industry, most of them that are successful now had it very early. Talk about Wizkid, Davido, all these guys had it very early, and just being able to express yourself creatively at a very young age. If you check the other industries, we're just getting tapped into the fact that young people can succeed in this. For example, think about STEM, right? We're just accepting the ideology of it, right? And this is something that I think that we need to put in more effort. It's like,
Have you found yourself a situation where, and I'm going to speak from experience, right? Which is that sometimes you call a Gen Z or you're working with a Gen Z and you give them task and they practically can't execute, right? That is one. Then two, you're trying to put them through, they're not as patient enough to understand the rudiments of what it is that they are doing. And that can lead to costly mistakes over time. Mistakes that you have foreseen likely going to happen, and you're trying to course correct almost immediately so that they don't get there. But they want things done in their own way. And in most times they get their hands beaten. Right. And at the end of the day, they are lost in their own thoughts and are unable to even pick themselves together. Sometimes you just look at these things and like, dude, what are you doing? Right? So, yes, you have it easy. Yes, you have it cool. But I think that having it easy has also made you very fragile. When you compare, it's made them very fragile. Fragile in the sense that quick actions, quick critical thinking is lost at the end of the day. Not everyone, I wouldn't say all of them, but majority of them, the ability to critically think and provide solutions to issues are not there. Or you don't think so?
I think it's a mix of both, right? I think it's a mix of both. I do understand the fact that sometimes young people, right? Young, because I don't want to use the word Gen Z in this sense now. Young people can come off as, sometimes not being able to perform tasks as they should. Yes. And then they react. Because personally, I myself, I work with young people and I understand this. But I think it's something that every generation, to be honest, has faced. I don't think it is limited to like a particular generation. Like, if you think about it, their realities are different.
Okay.
Their realities are different. Say, for example, a millennial had to, the parenting style that they experienced was much more tougher. And I think that also your upbringing does matter.
Okay.
The culture that you're coming from. Because if you check it round, this conversation seems to be global rather than just a particular country, right?
Yeah.
It's... So I think upbringing does matter. I think culture does matter. I think that millennials had it tougher, right? And that some ways made them softer. And then now some baby boomers too, they had it tougher. So it's like they're bringing down the, how do I call it? How hard it was. Yeah, exactly. And they're bringing it down and passing it down to different generations. And I do agree that to an extent, this all bringing down what it means to like be a tough person and to be a successful person has been watered down to a large extent. But I don't think that it is the generation that should be scolded for that. I think that's the generation before that should go through that scolding because it's not your responsibility. For example, let me give this example. Say a child that is, is a child, an adult that's say 19, walks into a room, there are elderly people there, or let's say they're on a train and they see a 60-year-old woman holding on the train, standing up, and there's another person. I think that culturally, in this context, in the context of the African society, I think that it's just right that you stand up and let the older lady sit down.
Okay.
But I think that also does have to do with culture. I think that also has to do with your upbringing, what exactly you say as right and wrong. So in this context now, I think that parenting does have a lot of things to do with how a person behaves, right? And so the generalization may be a bit,
it doesn't sit well.
It doesn't sit well with me because there are a lot of exceptional young people. Like I work with some of the most exceptional young people in Nigeria, and I can tell you for a fact that they are very brilliant. Come on, let's even talk about what's happening around the world. In Palestine, I said in Palestine now. In Morocco, in Kenya, come on, the answers. they are very involved in like social issues, speaking up about things that they are passionate about. That's something to celebrate. But it seems like most of the time, the very few people that are, because the media always promotes things that are not
negative.
They're not right. So anytime it seems like young people are, doing something wrong, the media is there. But because obviously they're a huge part of the population, right? And so there are exceptional things. Look at the NSAS protest. Speaking up about something that you are very passionate about. That's something. That's something.
So you're talking about the recent uprising blowing. Is it
Nepal?
the Nepal?
Yeah.
And then we'll also look at Morocco in recent times, and a few years ago, Nigeria, the NSAS, those who actually led the struggle, and Gen Zs are known or seen to be very bold on the social space. Is it boldness or arrogance? What would you term that? Because you just alluded to it as well.
Yeah, I think that there's something very peculiar about, I would say the African culture. It's beautiful in its own way. I think that silence has lost its virtue, and I don't think that silence has any relevance in today's society.
Why?
I think that because of the fact that the media does control a lot of things, right? And for you to be relevant in today's society, you need to be seen. The population of the world has grown, right? And for you to really be relevant, you need to be in people's faces. And that's why the media is powerful. I think that the African society has something very beautiful, but can be very dangerous, which is the virtue of silence, right? I think that this has been used against us by people that are not so great. And
so when you say people are not so great, what are you referring to?
I think that in terms of...
Are you saying that the older generation are too docile?
I wouldn't use the word docile because my African mother is telling me don't use that word.
but invariably, what is that? That is what you are implying.
I think that there's a potential to want to accept
what is not right.
What they tend to manage with difficulty. They tend to want to say, "Oh, I'm going through this problem, but I'll manage. I'll be fine." But for a young person in Nigeria that understands, very aware, sees what's going on in other parts of the world, is asking questions, why? That's something that you hear a lot of Gen Z say. If they walk into the room and you ask them, get out, they are going to ask you, why should I get out? Are these not questions that we should ask? And I think that this is exactly why it seems like it's what we are not used to. The ideology that we should ask questions is what we see as arrogance and not.
So you are not arrogant.
I don't think it's arrogance.
The generation is not arrogant.
I don't think it is, but it's dependent on the individual.
But do you know that there is, again, I'm not trying to cut you short, right? So we're just conversing.
Yeah.
It's to better enable us understand the Gen Zs better, right? So don't you think that it is not what, but how said? It is not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. For instance, I could say, "Are you okay?" I could say, "Are you okay?" The tone is different for the two. One would mean I'm curious. I'm concerned to know if you are in a good state of mind. The other could mean that there's something wrong with you. Right?
That's true.
So, don't you think that sometimes when these questions are asked, they are asked in manners that are seen to be rude as against wanting to get information?
Well, I'm going to say it like this, right? I do understand where you're coming from, but I think it also depends on the individual.
Okay.
I think that there are a lot of brilliant Gen Z people that are respectful, that understand what it means to be a modern person and at the same time respect other generations. However, I do think that it is very difficult at least even for me as a person, to see something that's wrong and not be vocal about it and be unapologetic about it.
Okay.
I genuinely think that if I see something wrong in a room and I'm not comfortable about it, and I think that it can affect other people's lives, I will speak about it how I think I should speak about it, unapologetically.
But do you think that diplomacy would go along?
I think that the African society has overused the ideology of diplomacy. There are things that are. Let me give a very good example.
Good.
In Nigeria, we do not have 24 hours electricity. That is bad. Very, very bad. There is nothing about that should be diplomatic. It is terrible. The country how many years are we? Come on. There's no reason to be diplomatic about that.
Don't you think
what
that
it is bad?
But don't you think that you should bring people into the table and like, okay, Mr. President, this is the plight of the people. How do we solve it?
I think the better question to ask is, Mr. President, you've been at the helms of affairs for the past maybe 15, 20 years. And I'm not speaking about one particular president at this time. But I just think that you've been at the helms of affairs for the past 15 to 20 years. What have you done? That's simple in terms of access to electricity. Simple. There's nothing about it that there's no sugarcoating about it. I don't believe in the ideology of being diplomatic about something that's wrong. Let me give a very good example. If, for example, let's say a father, right, sees his son that was shot in the head, would he be diplomatic with the killer and say, you know what, was the gun an AK-47? What was the speed? Did my child feel pain? No, you wouldn't do that. You would unapologetically say, why did you, you would directly attack that. This is exactly the same thing that a lot of this, I would call, institutions in Nigeria are doing to the future of young people. And there is no reason to be diplomatic about it. You should say it as it is.
But what solutions? Let's for instance, yes, we do have issues, social issues that needs solutions. Beyond speaking, what is Gen Z profiling? Because it's one thing to speak, it's another thing to see, I have the solution.
Right.
And I am not just talking, but I'm saying that this is the solution. And not just saying this is the solution, but getting to work to say, okay, let's begin to marshal out how we're going to achieve these at the end of the day. Are Gen Z's doing that?
I like I said, right, different
it's one thing to talk,
right?
It's one thing to scold,
right?
It's one thing to castigate. It's another thing to say, I have the solution,
right? And
then move on to say, I am going to provide solution,
right?
Let us even assume that the generation, baby boomers, X, millennials are all, yes, they failed. They failed themselves. They failed the society.
Yeah.
But you are here. You're seeing what the errors are. And you're young enough to say we need to start recalibrating the society. Can you mention those who have championed or taking that part and are working assiduously to ensure that all the errors previously committed by all other generations are being corrected now? Are there Gen Zs who are doing that part?
Yes.
And what are they doing?
Right. For me, I'm going to talk about like some of my friends that I work closely with. I think that I want to just start from this angle. I think that every generation has high flyers.
Okay.
I think that there are people across different generations that are just gonna, just be calm about it. And there are people that are going to be exceptional and do something about it. So, for example, I'll talk about some of my friends that are doing work on education, for example.
Yeah.
You see them volunteering, going to schools. There are a couple of them. There's even communities globally. They are organizing globally, right? And creating communities of people passionate about education. One of such communities that I was a part of that involved a lot of Gen Zs around the world was an organization called Their World.
Okay.
Right. And this particular organization has a quote of young people that advocate for education, right, around the world. There are people in that advocate for energy, access to energy around the world also. A good example of this would be the organization that I work with in Nigeria, which is the local organization I work with in Nigeria. It's called Eco Diversified International. Okay. And we have a fellowship of like the top brightest young people in Nigeria, like, sorry for tautology, but like very, very, very brilliant minded people that are trying to make use of renewable energy solutions, right? They are trying to create innovations in geothermal energy. They're trying to create solutions even in like communication of how we can speak and lobby with government officials to provide energy access. There are different industries. I can begin to speak about people that are even in arts. A very good example that has been in the faces of a lot of Nigerians recently is someone called Victor Ashaka that's been using his ability of spoken word poetry to speak about things like climate change, gender equality, health access, different issues. We have people in that are advocating for plastic. There's just so much of them. And it's sometimes unfair that unfortunately most of the radar is shifted towards people on TikTok dancing and promoting negative stuff rather than, young people that are doing astounding stuff. For example, myself, I have a community of about 28 representation of 28 African countries. I started this at 22, immediately after I finished my university. There are about 28 African countries on a platform, and the ideology is that people that have sustainability, that are interested in sustainability, can connect, create partnerships together, right? We created this platform starting up with WhatsApp, and now we have a digital platform now. And from June to now, we've done over 50 partnerships across Africa. How exactly do you say that young people in Nigeria, in Africa, Gen Zs are not excelling? It's just the media that's not promoting that ideology. And I think this is why young people also need to start putting attention into you know what, we are doing this innovative stuff.
But if we have too many dance on TikTok trending as against what the few ones are doing, would you blame the society for having that perception?
I think that like every other generation, like I said earlier, I think that the society has always found ways to target young people. In this sense, I said Generation X were called...
But you speak highly of your generation as well.
Yes, definitely.
Don't you think that every generation thinks itself...
as special?
Yes.
I think so. But I think that what makes our generation unique, like I said, is access to technology and us being vocal about it.
Being vocal alone doesn't help.
I think it's a step. I think that for things to change, there needs to be the first of all knowing, which a lot of Gen X people knew. They knew. We have a lot of, great minds, right, in these generations, right? We speak about people like, let me even use Wale Soyinka, very well-read man. He was vocal at his during his youthful age, right? But there were very few people like Wale Soyinka. Right.
So you think that you have more persons?
Yes, we have more vocal, and that's a step, right?
But they also achieved so much from taking over, ensuring that African countries gain independence, to ensuring that the white men leave the country, leaving governance to the blacks. Getting educations, winning laurels on laurels, and stuff. The names are there.
Right.
If we do a comparative analysis between the older and now, would you say that you guys are doing so much?
I think we are doing well.
Dancing on TikTok.
I think we are doing well, to be honest with you. I think
Yeah.
I did just mention like a couple of people that are transforming. I think that like I just said earlier, the media unfortunately is very powerful, right? And we do have a chance as young people to make our innovations more vocal. I have a friend that I speak about her everywhere I go. Like she's from Tanzania.
Yeah.
And she's also creating something in her country regarding ocean innovation. And she's bringing people all around the world to come to her country. She's less than 26.
Okay.
And she's bringing people all the way to her country to invest in the ocean conservation in our country. We have different people. And even in Nigeria, there are a lot of them. I don't want to like start mentioning like names of like people for like, but essentially I'm telling you, like, if you just check, I've mentioned names like Victory, who is using arts, because usually we should promote arts much more than we should promote all these guys much more than we do. But essentially, Victory. I can talk about Oluwaseyi. I can talk about my friend Joshua. I can talk about Comfort Francis. I can talk about Esther. I can keep on mentioning names, of people that have changed how, like, the directory of how exactly certain sectors are shaped, are looked at.
Carl Keck, you remember?
Yes, Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Keck, all right. Killed by 23 years old.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
I think that nobody should have been killed like that. I think that the reason why we have opinions is that opinions... You see, I think that social media is meant to be a place that we share opinions. And people would have unique opinions, perspectives that are very different. People that believe in God, don't believe in God. They will share their ideologies. And in their own way, I think what matters is their intention.
Okay.
I do know that certain opinions are very dangerous. Right? Certain opinions are very dangerous. But I think that what should also matter is how exactly we can shape these opinions, especially if they are coming from the ideology of they want to actually do something good. I think the ideology is how we can all work together, shape these opinions, and build a better world. That's what matters. And I don't think that, the whole situation it should have happened.
Shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
All right. So let we go on a short break. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're discussing the misconception of Gen Z. And I have my very, very wonderful friend, Ayolua Folakumi, right? Right. And he's basically been defending. He's been on the defensive, trying to hold the turf for his generation. But moving away from that, we're going to be looking at some of the aspect of this conversation, right, which is, are Gen Zs really lazy at work? I learned that people keep saying that the attention span is very low. They can't stay on one job, blah, blah, blah. Is that true?
So, I genuinely think, right, that a majority of young people have a short attention span. I do think that. And I think that it's obviously because of social media, right? What they see every day, they want to have it quick. But I think that it's not just Gen Zs.
Okay.
I think that anyone who uses the internet actively would probably have a very short attention span. In terms of work, I've had so many experiences with young people myself. And I think
good or bad?
I think I've had good, but I've had a lot of bad experiences.
Can you share, please?
Wow. So, for example, I used to have so NYSC. Let me use NYSC for example.
Yeah, what is NYSC? That is National Youth Service Corps in Nigeria, where upon graduation from higher institution, you are made to go on a 1-year mandatory service. Right.
Yes.
Just wanted to put that there.
Yes.
out there.
Yeah. All right. And after I was in a place of leadership where I could like ask questions to this person who wanted to intern with the organization.
Yeah.
And I was like just asking, oh, what are your skills? What you did international relations? What skill do you bring on? Because this is an NGO, you know. And this person just told me they know how to fill cooking gas.
Okay. So
And
again, in Nigeria, if you use cooking gas, you have to, because you have cylinders.
Yes.
It's not like the advanced country where you have everything channeled through
Yeah.
pipes into
Yes.
into your, okay. So
Yes. And so I was like, no. Like, I understand that you know how to fill cooking gas. I mean, what skills do you bring to the table, like in terms of how you're going to support the organization? Because we had the opportunity to accept or reject you. So what skills? I was expecting things like, oh, I'm good at communications. I did international relations, so I understand the problems that affect the world, you know. And this person just said, "Oh, I know how to, I'm very good at filling cooking gas."
but that is a skill, though.
It is a skill, but in the context of you getting interviewed for like a professional role, of like being an intern somewhere, it's very, very terrible. You should know what skills are in different contexts. And this does tell you that sometimes the education system even may be at fault, because the problems that we have today are very peculiar. What the education system tells you is quite different from what is happening in reality. And I think that a lot of young people need to work on leadership. I think that they need to understand what communication means. Like communications, right? It's a very difficult thing for Gen Zs. And I think the reason why is because they're very good digitally. Right? They know how to type and use Slack, WhatsApp, Snapchat. You know, they know how to use that. But in terms of like communicating directly, they're just like, why are you not active? You say, I'm not, it's not giving. It's like, what is not giving? You know, there are places where you don't use those type of slangs. It's good when you're with your friends. It's good when you're maybe in your house. But in a professional setting, there's a reason why these things are like that. There's a reason why there's structure. Right. And I think that obviously work environment needs to develop, but I just think that there are certain things, especially in terms of communication, that are primary to the ideology of what it means to work. And a lot of young people need to develop these attributes. Personally, I had to, like, when I was in uni, I was about 19 when I started volunteering for organizations, even on campus, and, you know, learning, you know, getting close to baby boomers, millennials, and it did help me a lot, because now I can just walk into a room. I know what that baby boomer is thinking of. I know how to address them. I know what excites them. I know when to be quiet, when to talk, when to, you know, just...
So finally, there is something you can learn from the baby boomers, right?
Obviously.
Something that the Gen Zs don't have.
I think that, yes, definitely. I think that experience it's not something that you play around with.
So it's not something, experience is not something you can get on the internet.
I think that it's also based on perspective. I think it depends on the field, right? But I do think that experience is not something that should be taken for granted.
But I think, is there anything that annoys you as a Gen Z? Something that Gen Z does that really pisses you off, that you wish that you were not in that generation?
I think communication, right? As big as I am on advocating for Gen Zs in global spaces, and as big as I am in regards to Gen Zs generally, I do think that communication is very important, because of the fact that we grew up getting glued to our phones. We've lost the ideology of what face-to-face interaction looks like. And I think that this is a very important human attribute that is missing. I think human interaction is very important. It's not just about you sending a message. It's about, even how you gesticulate, how you interact with people. That's what makes you human. And, devices are not human. So I think that's something that I really don't like about where we are in this generation. I think that we need to learn more on how to communicate face to face in interaction with people. And this is something that millennials have, baby boomers have, all the generations have it, but we are missing on that.
Your culture, Gen Zs,
Right.
do they take culture seriously?
I think culture is dependent on how you grew up.
So culture is a way of life.
It's a way of life.
Of the people.
Right.
Our people love our traditions. As Africans, we love our traditions. Our tradition is understanding our way of. Our tradition is basically designed in such a way that there are ethics, there are codes, there are certain things that you must know. Gen Zs are they paying attention to the culture or the stained globe? Because if they are, they shouldn't be having issues. Even in a place of work. And I'll give you an instance, for instance. So let's interact.
Right.
The culture says when you see your elderly ones, you must greet. Either through the words of mouth and greeting, or through posture, which is that you could either kneel, prostrate, take your cap off your head, whichever way is prescribed by any tradition, you do that. It also requires you to read the room, know when to talk, know when to be quiet, pay attention. Listening is a skill, and you're taught not to talk at your elders. It doesn't mean that your points are not valid or they will not be taken in or accepted. But it's just that there is a time for everything. The time to talk and a time to be quiet. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the Gen Z are paying attention to these things? Because it is one thing to say you are vocal. It is one thing to say, I really don't care what you think. Maybe because you're still being fed. For some of them, they're still being fed. Parents are making provisions for them. Provisions as you have your monthly stipends or allowances coming to you. You have elderly ones who are providing in terms of clothing, shelter for you. And sometimes you think that you're big already. But a time would come when these things will be taken away from you. And reality sets in. And you now begin to adjust yourself and realize that the things you think are right will no longer be. Why? Because you also need to blend into the society if you must make a living for yourself. Right? So don't you think that it is high time that your generation begin to understand the society and how it works so that it can fit in perfectly when the need arises?
I agree with your points.
And you also disagree.
I believe that we need to try and understand the culture, but I don't agree in certain areas.
Yeah, okay.
I think that the culture that we live in today, the African society that we live in today, is how it is because we've decided to conform. I particularly am of the opinion that the idea of obedience in itself can be very dangerous. I think that in some regard, disobedience is necessary. And when I say this, I say it very carefully. That in some regards, some cultures, some traditions that we've upholded, like I said earlier, the ideology of silence, this plays in a lot of areas in how we do things generally. You work as a young person, you see an elderly person doing something wrong. Because of the fact that you are African and you're true to your roots, many times because of the culture that you've been taught, you decide to be quiet about it. But at that instance, I think what we should promote is empathy. I think it's beyond, we've passed the phase of conforming. Conforming to the norms. I think we've passed that phase. I think that the phase that we should be now is a phase of empathy, of respect for one another. And I understand that the society works in a way, but I do still understand that there is a place of not accepting certain norms. And for me, silence, shyness, it's a no-no for me. I don't believe in the ideology of being shy. I
You
don't
think
believe
you
in it.
think that talking on the internet, what most generation refers to noise making, because again, your leaders oftentimes refer to your activism on social space as noise making, right? Will that, constantly talking on the social space, will that change anything in this?
I think it has changed a lot of things.
So what has it changed?
I think it has created, first thing is awareness, right? Awareness from different angles, both from what it means, for example, to know who is in charge of, say, constituencies in a local government, who you should speak to, how you should speak, right? I think that for the well-meaning, in quotes, Gen Zs, I think that it has brought a lot of awareness to know how to move and change policies.
Have they?
I think that for a very good example is the because of this, in quotes, so-called noise making, there have been policies that have been changed. I mean, the Not Too Young to Run campaign,
What was the Not Too Young to Run campaign by Gen Z, or it was the millennials?
It was the millennials, but it was obviously from the social media space that, those type of campaigns were moved. And in this instance, it will give the ideology that it's young people.
Let's point to one thing that this online activism have been able to achieve, and with respect to Nigeria. Let's be specific. Is there anything that you can pinpoint to say, yes, awareness is there, but this awareness has led to this?
Okay.
Because whether you like it or not, there is a power play. And the power play involves give and take. It means that you're not just basically making the noise or creating awareness, but that you are strategic in terms of engagement with the powers that be, and you are able to press further and get the policymakers to adjust their policy to suit your demand. That is only when you can say you have won the battle. So for me, I think it is beyond just creating the awareness. It is nice to create the awareness. But beyond the awareness is the engagement phase. And the engagement phase can only come when you are strategic. Strategic in the sense that, first, you identify people to talk to. Two, you come up with a plan that is convincing enough. And three, is that you are able to table this plan and have the power of persuasion to persuade the policymakers to see, to drop their point of view, to drop their opinion, and then see things from your own perspective. And again, that requires negotiation, which also means that you need the negotiating skill to be able to engage. And negotiation requires you to give and take, which is that I am making an offer. I'm putting an offer on the table. And you find a compromising stand. And at the end of the day, you might not win it all, but you do. You might just be walking away with some wins at the end of the day. And so what I see today is basically, I won't say noise, but I would say there's been so much of talking without a
action.
clear-cut plan towards the real plan on how to realize your dreams.
Well, in terms of policy, right, I will talk from my perspective and what are the things that I personally have been involved in. And I'm sure that a couple of other Gen Zs in different spaces, different niches would come and speak about different areas that they've influenced policy. For me, I will speak about a campaign that I'd been involved with. It's called, but it's not even like just Nigerian politics. It's like global politics. It's on loss and damage finance, which involves like countries that are most affected by the impact of climate change are not meant to be going through so much. They're meant to be supported, you know. And so one of the things that personally I did with my team, we figured out ways that we could highlight the cost of these damages by, say, floods, droughts, you know, all the things that were affected. And then in 2023, we went to Egypt to demonstrate at the United Nations Climate Change Conference to speak to world leaders about the impact of climate change. And from there, a policy document was created. And now there's even something called the loss and damage finance, right? And this is something that is, you know, you can hold on to. I think there are a couple of campaigns like this that young people have been very vocal about. Currently, there's another campaign I'm very much passionate about, which is regarding debt cancellation because of the impact of climate change in Africa. And I think that a lot of African countries are heavily borrowing money sometimes to just cover up for the impacts of these issues, you know. And I think that, for example, Malawi had Cyclone Freddy, and they had to borrow money to be able to like take care of the impacts of that cyclone. And so these issues are not caused by them because of what the science is saying essentially. And I think that just checking in different niches, you would realize, and this is where I say media every time, you would realize that some people are changing how policies are made. They are changing certain things. But I do agree with you from the angle that sometimes it can appear as noise making. But I want you to know that, like every other generation, there are people at the forefront pushing for intelligent discussions to be brought at the table. I genuinely believe that there are well-meaning young people in Nigeria that are at the forefront of changing the narratives in different spaces. I'm part of this group called Advocacy, and what they use is they use art to speak up about the issues that affect us. And there's this place in Lagos called Oworoshoki, right? They literally created a protest and they danced in the potholes, and the government saw this was happening and they changed and they did something about it. There was another campaign that I was also involved in. It's about single-use plastics, because a lot of our drainages in Lagos are blocked with plastics and all of single-use plastics. So I was one of the few people that was I've been speaking about this since like I was 19, right? And today they're already working towards that. So these are some of the things. These are the small wins that I can mention in relation to both from like a global level to like local level. I think that this is enough to like just show that these are things that while it might look like noise, and while some people obviously are just using it for their own advantage and clout, I believe genuinely that there are people that are right in the face of it and doing something about it.
All right. So, Gen Z. They hide under the cover, or don't you think so? They hide under the cover of Army Gen Z. To misbehave, to be very rude, and tell you, oh, we're outspoken,
right,
must talk. But deep down, you can see level of poor home training, poor, serious lack of home training in the display. And it says, oh, because I'm a Gen Z.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
I understand you. And I told you earlier, I'm a Gen Z and I work with young people. In fact, I pay salaries to young people. And I can tell you for a fact that I understand what it means when young people are being rebellious and there's no sense behind their reasoning. Right, I understand this, and to some extent, we still need to understand also that they are young people. That's the whole idea. They are learning, continuously learning, and the decisions that they make would at some point they will change. Hopefully, if it does not spoil their lives.
When they now need to earn for a living.
Yes, for a living. Right. I think that this is why, for me, I will say that for any young person, immediately you're done with university, don't try to look for a job. Go somewhere. Go there. Go learn. Don't if they give you money, good and fine. But like, try as much as possible to find ways to volunteer. Just the ideology of your knowledge, the so-called knowledge that you have, if you just serve, you'll be humbled by how much you don't know anything. I think wisdom is knowing that you do not know. And it is important that you just do that sometimes, because, for example, I graduated with a first class. And me finishing from university, there's this high energy that they give to you, say you have a first class. And there's a tendency for you to want to let the world know that you know. But I was very lucky to have millennials around me that could advise me and say, you know what, you really don't know anything. See, this is where you need to be. This is where you are, go learn. So I did volunteer for a long time, for me to be able to gain experience, to be able to know how to move and how to work with other people.
What your final words as we begin to wind down? What would you say to Gen Zs that are heavily involved in advanced fees fraud?
Advanced fees fraud.
Fees, yeah.
Advanced fees fraud.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yahoo, aka.
Yes. I think this is a very sensitive topic.
Okay.
I think that I have a lot of words for them, and I also have words for the government. I think that, and I know that, not just I think. I know that in Nigeria, there's so many young people that are graduating from universities, and we need to have a workforce for that. It's almost impossible that young people are expectant. They finish university, they finish their training, and there are no jobs available. And some of them, because they are not as creative, our creative abilities are very different. Some people are just meant to do certain things. Like, their abilities to do things are different, right? So I think that the government needs to do better in terms of promoting opportunities. Now, young people, come closer. I think that in every part of the world, every place, there are challenges everywhere. And the problems that affect Nigeria are very unique, but you have a chance to be creative about it. It's what makes you Nigerian. It's the ideology of what makes you, able to struggle and say Nigeria no dey carry last. This is exactly what is going to get you through life. And there are a lot of examples that I can mention. Talk about our music, talk about politics, talk about food, talk about fashion. Everywhere you go to, there is somebody that looks exactly like you. And crime should not be what you should venture into. I think that it's important that you show the Nigerian spirit. You show what it means to be Naija, at the same time being empathetic with people all around the world.
All right, it's been an amazing conversation with a super Gen Z. He's not just a Gen Z, but a super one. And you've heard from the horse's mouth, giving us blow to blow. Where it needs to be, he has defended the generation wonderfully well. And he's also shared his thought about what needs to be improved at the end of the day. It's been an amazing conversation. Looking forward to bringing him back on set. And maybe the narrative will change at that point. Maybe he would be in the UN presenting and then defending and advocating for sustainable development at the end of the day. I want to really appreciate you for finding time to be here. You're my G, so we started with a knuckle. We should chop another one as we wind down. All right, from me, what I think is the society needs, the Gen Z needs to understand that it's one step at a time. You can't rush your way into adulthood. And there are steps, there are things that needs to be learned. And they should basically pay attention to all of these, because that is what makes you who you are at the end of the day. The conversation is not ending here. It continues on all our social platforms. So let us know your thought about this topic and what needs to improve among the Gen Zs and how they can better their life. Okay, so subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Lighthouse Convos. Like, comment, share. This is how we grow, and this is what inspires us to do what we know how to do best. From all of us in the studio, I want to say a big thank you to you for watching to this point. And it is bye for now. My name is Emmanuel. To have a wonderful day. Thank you.